jumping into habit number 3, and today's habit is called create a series of yeses. So we're going to kind of go back and go over habits 1 and 2. I think, I don't know about y'all, but for my brain after 50 and approaching closer and closer to 60, my memory my mind doesn't retain what it used to retain. And so I got to go over it and over it again. So let's go back to habit number 1. I love this ditch the pitch information. I really do. So habit number 1, we talked about being alert, say less to notice more. And then the third point was to turn down the analytical brain. So to sum that all up, be present in the conversation. No, I have the worst tendency trying to think about what I'm going to say next versus really listening to what that person is saying. So that was habit number 1. The tagline was think input before output. So be really engaged into the conversation. And here's what I learned when I really think about it. If I'm truly engaged in the conversation, I have to trust that I can come up with what needs to be said when it's time to talk. And we all literally trust yourself. Be confident in that if you're really engaged in that conversation, you're going to know what to say when it's time to speak. Okay, so that's habit number 1. Just dive into that conversation, be present, be there. It's nothing more annoying than to be talking to someone and you know good and well they're not listening to what you're saying. I mean, you know that, and I know that when I'm talking to someone, I don't want to be that person. Okay, habit number 2, Linda did a phenomenal job fleshing out habit number 2 last week. And you know what? The thing that just screamed at me when she was talking was drill down with follow-up questions. And I told you last week, and I'll say it again, I'm good about asking questions, but I'm not good about that drilling down. And that's what I really took from Linda's talk last week. So when you think about habit 2, size up the scene. Don't just do it on a surface level with one question. Just start drilling down with those questions. And the practice was know who you're with. And the only way we're going to know who we're with if we keep drilling down further. Understand the context of the conversation. And Scott and I had a conversation with Sydney, who was in corporate real estate, our daughter, this weekend. And this whole topic of context came up. And she made the comment that she was telling it about a big deal that she'd landed, and there's no fine line as far as what percentage she will get of each deal that she does. So she goes, how do I approach people who are being gracious to me? They've pulled me in on this deal, and I think I deserve 20% of it based on what I'm doing. But I think normally they only give 15%. How do I get the 20%? So she's asking Scott, my husband, and me, but predominantly him. And what he came back with was, you got to put the context out there for them. You got to help them see if they're typically used to giving 15%. You got to help them see why they might want to give you 20%. So what would you say, Sydney? And so as the conversation unfolded, all I could think of was ditch the pitch. That, we've got to get the context of what they're saying and dig more out from them in order to be able to know how to move forward. And so that habit number 2 that Linda talked about, that practice under habit number 2, understand the context of the conversation. So if she said, if they come back and say 15% and Sydney says, well, I was hoping for 20% and here's why. Here's what I did that I think is a little more went beyond. Here's this, here's that. what's it going to do? It's going to open up their eyes. And the same is true when we're on the other end. If we're looking for the context behind what they're saying, then it's going to open our understanding of how to really size up the scene and how to move forward with them. Sorry, I didn't mean to spend that much time on the refresher, but I just thought that was kind of neat in a whole nother area of selling. That context is so important. Okay, so we're jumping into number 3, habit number 3, and it is, the tagline for habit number 3 is create a series of yeses. When I started reading this chapter, I thought, do I personally create a series of yeses? And I don't know that I've, maybe I do by accident, but I certainly haven't done that by intention. So when I think about creating a series of yeses, it's using that yes and. So the first thing that when I'm reading through this chapter that jumped out at me was said, saying yes builds excitement and buy-in. So if you think about, and I don't know why this story came to mind, but I'm going to share what came to mind is I remember, and this was years ago, sitting on my deck, a friend of mine was at my house. I was trying to get her wanting Juice Plus. And as we talked, she was so hung up on the whole, is it organic? Well, I was so hung up on the fact that she was feeding her little kids Go-Gurt. You remember those big Go-Gurt things that's just full of chemicals? And I'm like, are you really hung up on the whole, is Juice Plus organic? And why is there not a big organic label on it? When I'm looking at her kids eating that Go-Gurt thinking, what? So there's a disconnect. But as I look back at that conversation with her is, and I really don't, she became a customer, so I must have fumbled around and said enough or listened enough to get her on board. But I wish I would have had this yes and verbiage, because I would have said, yes, man, that is a good, having a product, putting a product that is organically grown in your body is huge. And here's why. Here's what Juice Plus does. We test our Juice Plus, at the fields to make sure there's no herbicides, pesticides, yeast, mold, bacteria. I love that you're concerned about this. Then we test it again after we juice it. And so what it does is you get excited about what's on their mind, but use the and to expand. So using that and, oh my gosh, I love that you are that knowledgeable about the importance of it being organic. And here's how Juice Plus does it. What did it just do? It allowed me to tell the story of Juice Plus and how it's made. And so use that yes and as much as we can and lean into it, because then they get excited that they are so smart, that you've identified something that they're bringing up that's so important. The other thing is people love it when you agree with them. You suddenly become the expert. You suddenly become smart because you are agreeing with them. Now, I don't wade into politics really at all, because it is a explosive topic anymore. But here's what I want you to think about, regardless of what side you're on. If you're talking to someone, and it seems like today you're on one side or the other. I mean, there's no in between like there used to be, it seems. But here's what I want to say. So you're talking to someone, and as you're talking to them, you're starting to think, ooh, okay, they're thinking like I'm thinking. What goes through your mind? Suddenly, they're suddenly become so intelligent. You see what I mean? You're like, ooh, okay. Because why? They're thinking like you're thinking. And so suddenly they're smart, they're intelligent. I want us to think that same way. The good thing with Juice Plus is it's not going to be that divisive. But what if we approached our conversations with Juice Plus in that same way, that I am looking for a way to agree with somebody. And even if it's politics, even if you're on separate sides, if I try hard enough, I can find things that I'm going to agree with that person. The problem is with politics is we're looking for reasons to disagree versus looking for that common ground. So when we're talking about Juice Plus, what if we're looking for common ground that we can really camp out with them and get them on board with us? So be looking for common ground. And the only way we're going to be able to find common ground is if we let them talk enough that then we can start saying, yes, I agree. That's awesome that you're doing XYZ. That's awesome that you are getting 5 to 10 fruits and vegetables in your kids every day. How do you do that? I always found that a challenge. So instead of letting them tell me they're getting 10 fruits and vegetables in their kids every day, and all in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, there ain't no way. Instead, what if I lean into that and say, wow, how are you doing that? You know, this is what I do day in and day out. I would love to hear your tips so I can share with other people who are struggling. You know, what have I just done? Made them feel like, wow, you're on board, you're moving in the right direction. So that's what we want to be doing, is looking for those yeses, looking for ways to agree. And then the next thing that, as I read this chapter in this section of practice saying yes, and yes establishes rapport with people. And we can quickly turn them off if we're coming across as the expert. They'll know we're the expert the more that we have conversations. But if we're seeking to be the expert versus seeking to find out what I can validate in them, that's where the rapport is going to come into play. So when you're talking this week, see how many times you can say, yes, I love that. And here's why I love what you just said. I'm telling you, when I'm reading this, I felt good and thinking about, okay, how am I going to do that with so-and-so, with this person or that person? Okay, so the second point was practice, work with what you're given. And so here's a couple things that were sprinkled throughout this section of that chapter. If we work with what we're given, we can ride the wave with that line of thought. So weekend before last, I was at the beach. And so when I'm thinking about specifically when I read his terminology there, ride the wave, I had one of those little boogie boards, and I literally thought, I'm just going to kind of hang out here right as the waves were breaking. And what was happening, I got laughing so hard. Those waves were just turning me upside down. I couldn't even catch my breath and get back up on the board that it was knocking me back down. I look at the beach, I've got like 4 or 5 of my friends, and they are like on the ground hooting and hollering, laughing at me. And then one of them was like, you idiot, get in deeper so that you're not getting knocked around. And I was like, okay, that is dumb. I know that, but I wasn't doing that. And consequently, I was laughing so hard, I was getting nowhere. And literally I had to stand up and walk deep into the water. And then when the waves were coming, what I was doing was just riding with the waves. And you know, that's what we got to do. I think so many times we kind of gear up and we manhandle a conversation that we're going in and we're going to get this person on board and we're going to get them on our team, or we're going to get them as a customer. But what if we go in just ready to ride the wave? Whatever they say, we're going to go with it. Bring it on. It's okay. You know, why? Because I'm looking for the yeses. I'm looking to agree with you. I'm looking to align myself with whatever you have to say. You know, if it's all about being organic, then I'm going to ride with that. If it's all about how great you already feed your kids and you don't know Juice Plus, I'm going to ride with that. I am going to look, my goal is to look for a way to say yes, to get you in alignment with you, to get in agreement with you, to have rapport with you. I'm going to ride the wave. And what's going to happen is I'm not going to feel beat up. I'm going to feel like I'm getting somewhere. You know, if you're riding the wave and you're coming on the backside of the wave, and as it comes up, what happens? You catch the wave, and how much further do you get? So if we get to the yes ands, we're going to ride the wave of the conversation with them. The next thing you said kind of goes hand in hand. Don't fight the waves. You're going to fail every single time. So if I'm going to go and be combative with, there is no way your kids are going to get more fruits and vegetables, you know, that you can give them what they need. Or let's say, how would I fight it if I'm trying to get someone? Okay, so if I'm thinking of a gal, Allie, who I want to be part of my team, and she's telling me she's too busy. If I keep going back to her saying, you're not too busy, you can do this, I'm telling you, that's not going to work. So right now I'm sitting here thinking, as I'm thinking of the blitz we're going to do, what am I going to say to Allie to ride the wave versus fighting the wave of, I don't have time to do this business? Okay, so think about that, because we're going to circle back around and ask questions. So I need help with that. So if someone come up with a good conversation to get in with her. Okay, you may discover something you didn't know. So if I'm riding the wave, I may discover something. If I'm going with my agenda, my conversation, I may miss something that if I ride the wave with them, I may discover it. And here's an example. I remember this one gal who I knew that her mother had cancer. So I'm thinking she's going to want to get on Juice Plus in light that her mother had passed away with cancer. So my whole conversation was bent toward cancer. And for whatever reason, it was like we were not connecting. She wasn't biting on anything I said or saying, ooh, that sounds good, or yes, tell me more. And finally, I was just stopped and started just kind of listening for once. And as she talked, her why started coming out. And what I discovered, it was all about her kids. And I was driving down the wrong road. I wasn't riding the wave of the conversation. So another reason we want to practice, practice working with what you're given. We've got to be given something, and we have to be quiet long enough to be given something. That way we can discover where they are. The next thing is their response may not be the best idea, but it most likely will lead to the best idea. So have you ever been talking to someone and you're talking to them about Juice Plus, and they just go down the wrong path, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's not right. No, that's not the route you want to go. Let me see. I did have an example, and it's not coming back to me what I was going to talk about. But what a lot of times we'll do is immediately try to redirect them. But what if we kind of go down that idea? What happens is that the good idea will emerge if we go down that path with them long enough. And I think sometimes we get afraid, and I'm the first to agree that immediately I want to redirect them. Kind of, let's go back to my friend Allie, who I'm talking to about joining me in the business. If I kind of try to keep steering away and talking about other things when the issue appears to be not enough time. But what if I unpack the not enough time idea? It's not an idea I want to talk about, but what if I go there with her? I may discover the true why to why she might want to do this business. You know, although she's putting that up as a way, here's why I don't want to do it. Maybe if I lean into that and drill down further, I might get the true meaning of why she doesn't want to join the business. She said she does, but she's not moved forward with anything I've put out there. So lean into the not so good ideas or the statements that may make us nervous, because it may unravel what we need to know. And then the next point, don't get caught up in saying the right thing or hearing the right thing. What happens when we're so hung up on, oh my gosh, I may say the wrong thing? What we come across as unconfident, not confident. People like to follow confidence. So when we're so worried about saying the right thing, it's not going to portray confidence. The other thing, or maybe we're not hearing what we want to hear from them, then we get all caught up in that. When what we want to truly do is just ride the wave and let them talk. And don't worry, I guarantee you, everyone on this call knows enough about Juice Plus that if we get in there and hear them, when the time for us to speak, we will know what to say. But if our mindset is, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say to that? Oh, that's not the right direction. Then it's not going to come natural, and it's going to feel weird when you say it. And that's why we feel like, oh my gosh, I didn't say the right thing. Trust your gut. I trust you. I know everybody on here, I've had enough conversations to know that you will say the right thing. So don't worry about it. And then the next thing under this whole section of work with what you're given is be confident that we can get wherever they take us, we can get to where we want to go with the right questions and drilling down far enough. You'll get them to where that conversation needs to be. And I think sometimes, and I'm thinking of this gal, Allie, I keep going back to her because I really want her on my team. I know I have over-talked, overshared. So now I've got to get her. So I've gone to a place I really shouldn't have taken her to, basically. This was an enlightening chapter for me. So now what I have to do is I got to figure out how to redirect her back to the path I want her on. And how do I do that? It's getting inside her brain and getting her talking, even though most of our conversation is coming through a text. So I got to work with what I've been given. And because of my own fault, I haven't been given a lot. So now I got to get in there and dig and get more from her. Okay, third thing, ensure they keep saying yes. So don't give the customer or the prospect an opportunity to say no. So what is it that we're saying to give? So fortunately, I keep going back to Allie. If she only knew how much time she's getting, you guys are going to love meeting her. But anyway, I will say I haven't pushed her to the point she said no. She's actually said yes, but she's not taken a step further than that. So what we don't want to do is push people to the point that they say no. And I'm telling you, I think we all, including myself, we all have that tendency. Like I could say, screw it. I have given this girl so much information, she's not going to do this. It's almost like we make a decision for them. I want right now, how many people can think of people who you actually have basically said no for them? They've not told you no, but you're just annoyed that you haven't gotten them to the point where you want them. Anybody want to raise their hand on that one? All right, I can only see me, Karen, and Brenda, and we all have our hands up. Because people don't respond the way we want, we write them off. How many times do we do that? That we've kind of pushed them to a yes or no answer, or maybe we haven't pushed them to a yes or no answer. We haven't got them talking enough to get them saying yes, yes, yes. So we give up on them. I went and I recreated my 25 prospect partner list. And when I look at these people, not a one of them, I don't know, it looks like I got about 25. Not a one of them have told me no, they didn't want to be a partner. Not a one of them. Look at that list. But I've let them all go cold. And that's because, you know what? People don't always work on our time frame, do they? And so to make myself feel better, I let them go cold because I didn't want to feel like I failed. It's you. I'm going to write you off. You know what? I'm looking at this list. Hold on. Where's my next list? I got to show it to you because this is what got me thinking. So on look at how many people who their distributorship is canceled and they don't even know it. So what could I do? I could say, oh, screw this. These people they're not even paying enough attention to their virtual office to know it's time to renew. They don't want this business. I'm just not even going to worry about it. But what if I had a conversation with each one of them? So I think sometimes we do it to ourselves because we don't want to go there. It's a crucial conversation. Scott has a book. I'm going to pull it out and maybe we'll do some training on this. It's called Crucial Conversations. How many crucial conversations do we avoid because it makes us uncomfortable? I'll raise my hand on that. And so I'm looking at these people thinking, what am I going to say to them? Maybe, because our business, and I had a crucial conversation with someone the other day who called me and said she wanted to quit. And I said, so tell me why you want to quit. She goes, I've been doing this business forever. I can't get more than 5 or 6 customers. I get new ones, old ones drop off. This isn't for me. I can't do it. And I said, what if I told you of the 1,000+ distributors I have, that probably 90% have about the same amount of customers you have? What would you say to that? She said, what? I said, yeah. I said, I got about 100 that have customers in excess of, 30 or 25, but everyone else has about what you have. So why are you beating yourself up about that? And she was like, well, I should be further. I'm like, you know what? You work full time and it's okay. Look at the people you are impacting. Look, it's paying for your Juice Plus product, isn't it? I said, so why would you quit? And that by the time we got done, she was like, thank you. I was feeling really bad about myself. I'm like, it's okay. This business is made for whatever level you want it to be. And it's okay. It is totally okay if your goal is to just cover your cost. And so I'm wondering how many of these partners I need to have that conversation with. And who knows? Maybe they're only getting theirs at wholesale. Maybe if I just mention 5 or 6 customers, what if they brought on 5 or 6 customers and covered their cost? PVC is PVC, you guys. Okay, I'm getting off. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track, but it made me get thinking about how quickly we write people off. What if we just work toward getting a yes? Whatever that yes is. We're about ready to do a blitz, and we're going to talk about the blitz at the end. But what if our whole goal is to get a yes? One of my yeses, I want to go walking with someone I just met who I want on my team. I'm not going to try to get her to be a customer. I'm not going to try to be on my team. All I'm going to do on the blitz when I reach out to her is to say, hey, Amy, I had so much fun going to dinner with you. Let's walk. She's a neighbor down, couple subdivisions over. What nights are you available? Let's go for a walk. You know what? Check. That's a success for me on that blitz. If I get her to say yes, let's go. I'll go for a walk with you, Elaine. Who's going to say no to that? Really? Would you really say no if someone called you and wanted you to walk with them? So the whole blitz is about getting people to say yes. So I think about Allie, my nurse, who I want so bad to be on my team. What am I going to say to her to get her to say yes? Hey, Allie, did you watch Dr. Du Bois's talk? What did you think of that? Man, I'm going to think of every single person this week when I jump on those 2 blitzes, if not more. How can I get them to say yes? What can I ask them that will move them a step further, but get them to say yes. That's our goal. Whatever you want it. Do you want to invite them to an event? Yes. Do you want to invite them to coffee? Yes. Whatever you can do to get them to say yes, that's your goal with that person. Okay, last thing here. So how do we avoid getting no's? So one, we don't want to assume anything. Don't assume just because their name's up here and they're not renewing, they don't want to renew. I guarantee you none of these people even know it's time to renew. I guarantee you. And what's it going to do? It's going to give me an opportunity to get a yes. Oh my gosh, you don't want to miss out on getting your product at wholesale. Oh my gosh, you don't want to miss out. You've got 5 customers. You don't want them rolling up to me. I'll take them, but you don't want them rolling up to me. Why would you? You need that money. Okay, so don't assume anything. Don't prescribe the solution too early. You know, oh my gosh, I've got this one customer. It is killing me. He's been a customer for 10 years. I've texted him, I've called him, I've emailed him. I don't know why he quit. He stopped his Juice Plus. It's killing me, killing me. But I'm not going to prescribe a solution that, oh, he doesn't want Juice Plus anymore. You know what I'm going to do? This week, I'm going to call. He was a referral from one of my customers. I'm going to call my customer and say, what is up with Benson? I can't get him to respond. So I don't prescribe the solution too early. Keep your conversations focused on the customer and let the shared story emerge. So, you know, to satisfy our own discomfort, we jump too soon. So let the conversation emerge so that, you know, we'll know how to ask the questions without getting a no answer. And then lastly, avoid yes and no questions. Craft your questions to be yes and yes to get the answers. So think about, because I'm going to open it up and let's hear from you guys. How do we craft yes and yes questions? All right, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to start asking, how do we get yes and yes and yes and yes, keep getting people to say yes? Any ideas pop in your head while I was talking? Aaron, I'm looking at you. Aaron, I'm Aaron V. Say your last name so I don't mess it up.
It's Vogelzahn.
Vogelzahn. Okay, she's paying attention. So Aaron, how would you get someone, what would be a question to ask that's not going to allow a no? It's a yes and yes question. Anything popping in your head?
Would you like to feel better?
That's good. Nobody's going to say no to that. Okay, so she just brought up a really good point. Is you could say no to it, but nobody's going to say no to a question that makes them look like a fool, basically. No, I don't want to feel better. Everyone always wants to feel great. You know, who wouldn't? So that's one way to always get a yes, is to ask a question that you know they want it. All right, anybody? Thank you. Good point. Okay, who else? A question you can ask. Okay, Susan.
Do you want your kids to eat more vegetables? Because that's what usually prompts the conversation with my younger clients, is I have kids complaining about their kids not eating right. So,
okay,
you know, they're going to say yes.
You know, they are. Everyone's struggling with that. But you know what I even liked better about what Susan said? I mean, I like your answer, but I like the fact that she qualified who she was talking to. And I think that's key, is take a few minutes and let's qualify, kind of back to think about input before output. You know, before I even make a phone call, I'm thinking about who I'm going to be talking to. All right.